So one of the biases that's in history of ethnic studies, which is I'm a historian of ethnic studies, right? There's a lot of great things about it. And it's what I am at my core, but there is a very strong bias against Christianity. And Christianity is viewed as simply the religion of the colonizers, right? With no redemptive value, right? And I get that, right? It's like, oh my gosh, for the last 500 years, probably 80% of Christianity has been colonial and just caused so much damage.
Mm,
Right? And I don't try to apologize for that at all, and I condemn that. All the
yeah.
horrors of intertwining European colonialism, American colonialism with Christianity and civil religion. That's horrible. But that's the only kind of accepted view, really, for the most part, honestly. And so I had to somehow make the case that there was this 20% of Christianity, right, in Latin America amongst U.S. Latinos that was on the front lines of justice, right? Indeed, my argument in the book is that this brown church history represents this important community cultural wealth of our Latino community, and that there is this spiritual capital that's part of this brown church history and community cultural wealth, and that's drawing from critical race theory. But and I'm saying, well, as Chicano Latino historians, we we can't claim to understand the Latino community without understanding the role of religion, right? And also, how it has been a source of strength and community cultural wealth and spiritual capital. And so I had to kind of walk a delicate line, but it's not hard because I truly believe that, right? That, like,
Yeah.
yeah, 80% of it has been horrible and colonial, right? With some good stuff
Yeah.
mixed in there, I dare say. And there has been this 20% that is not discussed, has not been discussed really, where Christianity was a tool of empowerment amongst Latinos and Latinas.
Yeah, that's good. I like how you're approaching this. And I'm wondering, like, what advice do you have for those of us who maybe in conversation with those who maybe they look at the colonization, some of the trauma that the church has caused, and they don't see any sort of redemptive value in Christianity or the Catholic Church. Where maybe we're in a discussion with them. What would be some ways to like navigate those discussions?
For sure, yeah. I think first to totally recognize that trauma is real and horrible. And sometimes I see some Christians, they try to, like, almost apologize, and that's not the right approach. It's like, if someone comes to you in your family and says, I experienced this horrible abuse by another family member, you don't try to, like, oh, it's bad, but, no, you say, that is horrible. And you call it out, right? And I think that's the
Yeah,
first thing is to, and I think that will, just that alone is a huge step, right? And then I think then you say that actually, if you're interested, there's actually this other part, of history where there have been where Christians have been on the front lines of justice, right? Precisely because of their faith, and that was actually who Jesus was, and that Christianity is actually, it's not a Western religion, it's from the East, right? It's an Abrahamic religion, from the East, and that Jesus himself, and this is where you have to deconstruct a lot of those colonial notions of who Jesus is, and then from there build upon, how that legacy has been expressed in history. But like in the book, for example, talk about how Latino theologians like Virgilio Elizondo and Justo Gonzalez and others have talked about how it was very significant that Jesus was from Galilee. Right? They say, taking our Latino cultural lens and reading the Gospels, we find it very important that Jesus was from Galilee, because Galilee was the hood of its day. Galilee was
mm,
the hood. And when God came to earth, incarnated, in humanity, God chose to be from the hood, right? Galilee was a borderlands region um, in which Jewish, Greek, and Roman culture came together. It was a colonized region. Galilee was on the fringes of the Jewish community itself. The power was in Jerusalem, right? The political, religious, economic authority. People from Galilee were looked down upon as like, oh, they're Galilean, right? They speak with an accent, right? They're these kind of country bumpkins. They're these
mm,
campesinos, if you will, right? And it's very significant and deliberate. Latino theologians would say that God came in Jesus Christ as a Galilean, right? And they frame that as, they call it the Galilee principle, the Galilee principle.
Oh.
Those that human beings reject, Virgilio Elizondo says, those that human beings reject, God chooses as God's very own.
Mm.
So beautiful, the Galilee principle, right?
Beautiful.
So beautiful, right? I mean, we could just like drop the mic
Yeah.
and kind of just leave right now on that, right? And it's like, so that it totally stands colonial Christianity on its head to see Jesus in his own historical context, and also the fact that Jesus did most of his ministry in Galilee, right? And Jesus was raised in Galilee. Jesus chose the leaders of his new movement. They were all Galileans, right? They weren't from the Beverly Hills or like Palos Verdes or like, Harvard of the day. They were
Yeah.
these rabbinic school flunkies, right? Who were fishermen, right? Who didn't have the legit creds to fit into the institutions of their day. But in order to change the system, Jesus had to choose those who are outside of the system.
Hey, thank you so much for checking out this video clip from the Delgado podcast. To get more videos like this, simply subscribe here on YouTube. You can also download the full episode of each show on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, or your favorite podcast player. Take care.